Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to the Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, Rally? How was your week off, man?
My week off was good, but I got to tell you, the week on, you see, I got this coat on. It's because I feel like we're getting frozen out with these guys, man. I don't understand what's going on, but they say where there's a will, there's a way, and we definitely have many wills, and there's going to be many ways. Let's get it, bro.
I don't know, man. We're running out of people to dance with. I feel like it's me back in high school, right? You try to ask people to prom, but they got to say yes. And right now, we're asking people. Ain't no one saying yes. We're interviewing them left and right, but there were how many coaching vacancies this offseason? As we're recording this, it's Wednesday, January 31st. We're the last team that does not have a head coach for next season. Every other spot got filled. And before we jump into that, man, it's not going to lie. I know some listeners were kind of, bummed we didn't have a show last week, but there wasn't anything going on. So Peters had his press conference a week before. We definitely talked about that. We just kind of wanted to enjoy the downtime. And, I ended up going to a Monster Jam. You ever been?
No, but I hear it's loud as hell.
It is. It's loud as hell. You got to have like ear protection, headphones, something like that for the kids if they go. Ended up going to 2 Monster Jam shows. Had a blast. And some of our listeners may relate to this, but I started playing pickleball. You ever play pickleball or heard of pickleball?
Yeah. Come on, man. Come on now.
I didn't know anyone. Not that I didn't know. I didn't look into this thing until Mrs. Tailgate joined a pickleball league during football season. But because you and I recorded on Mondays, I never got a chance to go.
Okay.
Now that the season's over, I decided to join with her. But
all right.
I can't jump into this thing without actually practicing. I'm obsessed, man. I'm just diving headfirst into this thing. I've got how many websites open up right now, reading reviews on paddles. I was out playing last night till 10:30 at night, from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. I'm going Friday afternoon to go play. I mean, if any of our listeners want to play, I joined a club, so I'm a member. I get 3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all let me know, man.
So.
Hey, dude,
it's man.
It's fun.
You got shoes. You got pickleball shoes.
Yeah, I had to get the special shoes, man. I'm about to pick up a burgundy bag. I signed up to maybe get the special paddle. So maybe it's just because we don't have a head coach. I got nothing else to do right now. But I got the bug, man. I got to get you out there with me.
Next thing you know, you'll be doggone telling me that you got his and her outfits, pickleball outfits, man. I mean,
we ain't going that far, but she was wearing a Commander shirt at the court last night, so I smiled. Okay. I was a little proud, right.
Yeah.
Even though we were playing against each other, and I was trying to hit it to her backhand, so she couldn't hit it back to me. But it's been a good time, man. And so, I mean, I don't know if anyone wants to go. You guys find me on Twitter. We can do that. But during the off week, that was basically me just going to the pickleball court like 3 days, 5 days a week for a couple hours at a time. So,
well, for me, it was kind of boring. I was working. Everyone always asks, Cap, how do you always get to go to all these games during the doggone week? And how do you get off of work? And how do you do? Well, what you guys don't see is in the off season, I'm putting that work in to be able to afford to be able to go to these games. That's how it's done. And I'm working comp time to be able to be off. You know what I mean? So the secret's out, and there you have it.
I mean, shoot. So on our last show, we teased like, how can we get inner circle passes? It's like, I'm trying to work extra when I'm not at the pickleball court so I can get off to join you in Detroit. Still ain't got a lead on those passes. And I sent a couple of DMs, sent a couple emails. Crickets, and remind me to add
plenty
crickets
of time
to our sound machine here.
Plenty of time, bro. Just like this head coach, plenty of time.
I don't know about the head coach piece, man.
Just ease back, young Padawan. Ease back. Everything will work itself out. We cannot, and I repeat, get ourselves into a tizzy about this. and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we cannot get ourselves in a tizzy about this. I'm cool as a fan, brother.
I'm glad you are. I'm glad you
Yeah.
are. But you know who isn't? Our cousins up north, up in Baltimore. So did you watch the games this weekend, or were you working all your comp time?
No, I watched some games, definitely did, and I have to say that Lamar just didn't show me what Lamar is capable of. He just didn't. I mean, you're talking MVP, you're talking all of this stuff. You know, he got his money and could have gotten more money. I just feel as though, and I could be wrong with this, I didn't feel or didn't look like he left it all on the field. It just didn't.
Yeah, I was shocked that they lost the game. So I put in a bunch of bets this weekend.
Hmm.
Figured, hey, we got nothing else to do. So I ended up putting in, actually not a bunch. I put in 3 bets,
Okay.
but I didn't touch the Ravens Chiefs game because it's in Baltimore. It's like, man, can they really lose? I mean, Kansas City hasn't looked like Kansas City this year. Who knows what's going on
Hmm.
with them? But am I going to really go against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? I mean, I don't know. So I didn't even bother touching that game. I just left it alone. And I'm glad I did, because next thing you know, you got Zay Flowers choking, fumbling that ball, doing the taunting, and just everything else. It was like, I could not believe what I was seeing when it finally came down to it, man.
Yeah. Well, so I put in 2 bets. Won one, lost one. Flowers scored the first touchdown. I was like, oh yes,
You
this
did
is
a
gonna
first
be
touchdown bet.
no, not first touchdown bet,
Oh, just
but
anytime.
just anytime touchdown. So
Gotcha.
and I went kind of heavy on that because I just felt that he would. That was the first one. And I'm so happy that I didn't parlay it to where my second one would not have hit. And the second one was Lamar Jackson scoring a touchdown.
So a rushing
He is
touchdown.
anytime touchdown. He has scored, yeah, as a rushing touchdown. He
Yeah.
has scored all throughout the freaking season, and he couldn't do it this one. And I just don't understand why. I'm telling you, man, I'm not one of these guys that say the NFL's rigged. I'm just gonna say that he did not leave it all on the field, and it showed. It really
So
did.
we're in an Uber headed to Monster Jam on Sunday
Mm-hmm.
morning, right? And our Uber driver picks a car. He's just being nice. He's trying to make conversation. I don't want to talk. I just want to relax and enjoy my ride. The wife and I were talking about other stuff, but he's trying to have a conversation. I talk for a living, man. I don't want to talk to just strangers anymore. I just kind of want my own time.
Yeah.
And he starts telling me about the NFL script conspiracy because the Super Bowl logo is the colors of the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you heard this thing.
I have.
I don't understand how people actually believe that that's a real thing. This isn't WWE, right? They are not
Scripted.
Do you think they can really script out what 47 men are going to do on a football field plus the weather? I mean, maybe the referees have a hand in something, but do you really think that they can dictate that much? There are people that actually believe this crap, man. I don't
No,
get it.
that would mean that you would need so many people to keep a secret, and we know that they can't do it.
Oh,
They just can't.
hell no.
They just can't keep a secret. I mean, the ball boy, the waterman, water girl, train. Everyone would have to be in on it. And do you really think that all those people could keep a secret?
No,
No.
zero chance. But there are
Yeah.
people that believe that it's actually true. And I mean, I'm sorry. I thought Baltimore had this just because of what Lamar had been doing all season and the fact that they
Yeah.
had a running game and they could take it out of Mahomes' hands. But next thing you know, they just decide to not run the ball for whatever reason. They only had 16 carries on the ground. That was it. And 8 of that was Lamar. And I'm sure a bunch of those Lamar runs weren't actually called runs. It dumbfounded me. But the game that I did bet on was the Niners and the Lions game. And Mrs. Tailgate all of a sudden turned into a Lions fan, which I know a bunch of people were. And let me ask you this.
Yes.
So we all know Trent Williams. We miss him. We love
Hmm.
him. We
Yeah.
want to root for him. But Does your distaste for Chase Young make you root against the Niners, or does your love for Trent make you wish they would actually pull off the Super Bowl?
Well, actually, man, to me, it's a little deeper than that. I'm just tired of seeing my homeboy win. And call me my homeboy hater, call whatever you want, call me. But I want to see another team win. I would have loved to have Detroit to have won the game. I'm not gonna make any bones about it. One, my dad's from Michigan, so and my brother is from Michigan, so it's my stepdad, but nevertheless, stepbrother, but nevertheless, I treat him as real blood. So I wanted to see Detroit win because of the whole my dad, and then plus they haven't been there. Now, other than that, I didn't mind, San Fran going because, like you said, I do like Trent. I do like, I even like Kyle. I do. I mean, I like the program that San Francisco has. And as you know, we just poached one of their guys for our general manager. So I was like, all right, I'll roll with it. So I was half and half.
So I'm torn, man, because I'm happy for Trent. I'm happy that he landed at a good place. I'm
Yeah.
happy that they're winning. I mean, the guy is going to be a Hall of Famer. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm sorry. There's no way that's not going to happen. And he was done dirty when he was here. So
Yeah.
I want him to win. I just don't want Chase to lockbox his way into a ring. And it is
Well,
obvious that he still is the same Chase that he was here. He had a 57.2 overall defensive grade during that game, right? He hasn't been lighting the world on fire since he went over there. And there are plays that people are highlighting where he's still half-assing it. He's still not giving it 110%. And he could have caught a couple of guys before. And it is what it is. I was pulling for Detroit just because, not gonna lie, I don't want to see Chase in the Super Bowl because
okay.
guess whose dad was on Fox 5 last night?
Cam Curl.
No, Chase Young.
Oh, Chase Young's dad.
Chase's dad was on Fox 5 talking
I don't
about.
know. Okay, all right. So the reason why I said Cam Curl is because Cam's dad has been all over Twitter and all over saying what his son is. So that's the reason why it didn't even dawn on me that Chase's dad was on Fox 5. But now I'm interested. Tell me what's going on with Chase's dad being on Fox 5. I want to hear this.
He joined Grant and Danny when Chase was here. Basically talking about how he faces double teams and triple teams all the time and no one else does, and just making up all these fake stats.
Okay.
And after that, Chase got traded. Well, now they were trying to, the local media, they're my friends over there. I'm sure I'll probably be over there in a week or two talking about the Super Bowl and cooking up food, but they're all trying to drum up some type of way to, glom on to San Francisco being in Super Bowl. It's like, yes, I get that he's a DeMatha kid. It's right down the road. I mean, I can, throw a football and kind of hit their school from where I am. But to me, Chase has no ties to here anymore. But his dad's going on there chatting and talking about Chase this, Chase that. It's like, you know what? Guy's gone. And I really don't care. There are people that want the Niners to win because they're sick and tired of this whole Taylor Swift thing. And I don't care about that either, except I was at the bar. So Monster Jam is over, and Mrs. Tailgate and I were doing restaurant week dinner again and that whole thing. But the restaurant we're going to didn't have a TV. So we stayed at that bar as long as possible. Oh, I watched the game on my cell phone. Don't get me wrong. I was that husband that literally watched the entire game from his cell phone, but she invited a bunch of her friends. So it's not like I was there to pay the check is why I was there. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But
all right.
Every time they showed Taylor at the bar, there was a group of guys around me. They all started taking shots. So by halftime,
every time they showed
yeah, they took a shot of tequila. So by halftime, and I don't know how much these guys had to drink beforehand, but these guys were just sloppy, just all over. I mean, it was bad on that end, but it was actually kind of funny. So I think I'm going to turn into a game during the Super Bowl that every time we see her on screen, you got to eat like a spicy pepper or something, man. I don't know. We'll have to figure something out.
I'll take a shot. I'll take a shot.
It's not a
No,
school night for you?
I'm not having a spicy pepper, and my job just told me that I can have Monday off. So
Nice, man.
as Bruce Allen would say, I'm winning off the field.
I'm still shocked it's not a holiday. I'm still shocked they haven't
Yeah.
moved it to President's Day weekend, and I'm actually grateful because Mrs. Tailgate and I got married President's Day weekend because
Yeah.
I didn't want to sleep on the couch every year if our bye week didn't line up with our anniversary. I was like,
Mhm.
unlike you, I'm sorry, it's the football piece. I know that you had to celebrate your anniversary or something during the season. I can't do that. So we got married in February.
Birthday. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
Tuna's
okay,
birthday.
birthday. I'm just surprised that the NFL hasn't tried to extend this even longer. So at least that Monday is actually a real sick day instead of everybody calling in sick.
Well, so here's what I would rather have. I'd rather the game be like at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Make it an early game. It doesn't have to be at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever. Make it at 3 o'clock.
So that means it's noon for the people in California. And if the
Not my
game's in
problem.
California,
Not my problem.
no, I hear you. I hear you. I would say, I'd say three. Yeah, no, three. I mean, if you make it 5 o'clock, then it's 2 o'clock out there. I think that's a little more doable.
Okay.
So, but
But still,
I'm right there with
the
you.
time can be adjusted. Is
Yeah.
the point of all this? The time can be adjusted to make the left and the right coast happy, straight up.
Yeah, and if you're overseas, hey, sorry, sucks. You know,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Can't do anything. Can't do anything for you for there. Yeah.
I got to wake up for NFL Europe games early, so you got to do it one time a year. I got to do it 4. So, but I was shocked to see San Fran pull this thing out,
Mm-hmm.
and now that it's actually ended up San Fran KC. First thing I did was I drove to Maryland that next morning, and San Fran's favorite, I think by 1.5. I put some money down on the Chiefs because I'm thinking they're going to pull this thing out. We still got a week plus
Yeah.
to see how this actually goes. But if you're giving Patrick Mahomes points, I'm going to take those points all day long.
Okay.
So,
Man,
it'll be interesting.
Well, you brought up something that was kind of interesting, and it doesn't deal with what's going on right now. It deals with the future. You brought up Europe, and we know that the games are going to be played in Europe this year. But there was one more game that they were talking about Brazil. Have we heard anything about that?
No, the Sao Paulo
Opponents?
game has not been announced, and I don't know when it's going to be. And
They better do it soon, I would think, because I mean, people still got to get there. Because now Brazil requires you to have a visa going over there, this special, I guess, visa that they want people to have. So it may take longer than expected, and plus it's kind of expensive. So yeah, and I want to know if our beloved Commanders are going to be there. So I would love to know something, and I know that they probably won't say anything until maybe after the Super Bowl. I'd imagine after the Super Bowl because they don't want to take the shine away from the Super Bowl. But I think we will probably hear something, not with our team going, but if they do, that'll be a bonus. But I really think that we'll hear something about that because they want maximum participation, and folks need time to be able to save up.
Yeah, they definitely do, and I don't think it's going to be us. I'm frustrated to hear that. If it is, then we'll make it work, figure something out. I
Yeah.
don't know when it's going to happen though, so it would be nice if we did get some advance notice. But like you said, the NFL doesn't like anything coming out during Super Bowl week. There's nothing going on this week. So now you have all the head coaching hires and everything being announced. And now's when you can actually interview any coaches from the teams that are in the Super Bowl. So that's good. But next week, the NFL wants all the focus to be on the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens. And speaking of which, if we don't hire a head coach by Saturday, I don't think we're going to have one until after the Super Bowl. And who's going to be left? So for those wondering, Ben Johnson was the guy everybody thought was coming here except for Adam Schefter. And I don't know, man. If I'm Schefter, I'm looking in his like locked closet or something. He's got to have a crystal ball because everyone thought Johnson was coming here.
I said it once and I'll say it twice, and we can go back to the other pods. Who anointed him? Why? And how? See, man, I gotta tell you, Ted, I'm always on the brink of let things just go the way that they go, bro. And this is one of those situations because on the last pod I was saying, why him? Why? Is he a motivator of men? We may have dodged a bullet. Everyone's so upset with this, but let him go to the lion's den and stay in that sanctuary, bro. Straight up. Something tells me that yeah, he wants to be a head coach, or he has aspirations of being a head coach. Got it. But when you look at everything that goes into being a head coach, he may have said, you know what? I'm not ready for this. So I would rather him do what he did. May not like it, but I'd rather him do what he did and stay in the lion's den instead of coming here and possibly wetting the bed with us. Straight up.
Yeah.
Straight
and I think it earlier on in December, Josina Anderson of CBS Sports posted on Twitter that there was a rumor that Ben Johnson was looking for at least or around $15 million a year to be a head coach, a first-time head coach. So a lot of people are saying that he's not getting that money. A first-year head coach that has never done it before isn't going to get $15 million. Just for comparison, Harbaugh is getting $16 million with the Chargers, and he's taken the Niners to the Super Bowl, and he just won a national championship. So,
the cat from Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get that. That makes sense. But to give Ben Johnson, who, back to your point, is an unknown, $15 million is kind of crazy to me. And the Commanders did talk to him. Seattle did talk to him. And in fact, and this is kind of what pisses me off on part of this whole thing, the team was in their private jet. The Hogs, they got their champagne going. They're in their PJ. They're going up to Detroit. And next thing you know, while they're in the air, Ben Johnson sends them a message saying, yeah, I'm going to stay in Detroit. They knew full well he was coming. They were coming there. And he told them this when they're on the plane. And he hasn't actually spoken to anybody publicly yet. But according to Amon-Ra St. Brown, this is on St. Brown's podcast. So, and I quote here, I'm like, so what's up with you? You did an interview. Like, are you leaving? St. Brown said. He's like, you know what? I'm on my way to the facility right now. He said he couldn't sleep last night. He was thinking about it, and he said there's unfinished business. He wants to stay. He said his heart is in Detroit. He wants to stay. So he told me that while he was on his way to the facility. And I don't know if that's just those two going back and forth. Who knows if that's actually how the conversation went, but you're Ben Johnson, right? Just imagine you're Riley Johnson. You get a chance.
All right.
You get a chance to have basically your pick of two teams to be the head coach for.
Yep.
Or you stick around with the Lions and try and run it back. Now, keep in mind, this is the second year in a row where you've turned down being a head coach. Do you think the Lions are actually going to get back to the championship game and win the Super Bowl? Do you think, because the only way it's going to get better is they make it to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl, or the odds are it gets worse and you don't make it back to the championship game. Do you just roll the dice and say, hey, you know what? Give me the money now. Give me that 5-year, 6-year deal now, knowing that your coaching contract, 100% of it's guaranteed, and you bet on yourself and what you're creating with a new organization? Or do you ride Dan Campbell's coattails again and see if they can lock up Jared Goff and run this thing back? What would you do?
Well, so I look at it two ways, and I'll run it to you this way. I'm going to stick to the devil that I know, which is Detroit. It's like that girlfriend that you got that, you've got some other prospects over here who don't really do things the way that you like, although they're fine as you know what. And then you got that steady girl who does everything that you like. You guys had little problems, but she does everything. More than likely, you'll go back to that one who familiar faces, the devil that you know. Now, as far as Riley Johnson is concerned, I'm just a regular government employee, brother. So I can't answer that question.
I hear you,
But,
man.
but what I will say is, I honestly believe, in all jokes aside, I honestly believe that, as I said earlier, he realized that, you know what, maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe I do need to get more experience under Campbell. Maybe I do. And I'm not mad at that. But I think that what he did was he gave a punkish way out. And what I mean by that is, once again, I'm going to use the girlfriend analogy. How many times have you broken up with the girl over the phone? That's not the man thing to do. The man thing to do is look her eye to eye and say, "Hey, look, I'm not getting with you. We're not getting back together because of X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X. Happy trails to you. Hey, I want nothing but the best for you." But to do it over the phone like that, that lets me know you're not a motivator of men. You're not, because otherwise you would have allowed them to come there and they would have thrown everything at you. But
Well, we were
he
going
knew.
there anyway, right?
Yeah,
We were interviewing their DC on top of it, not just to meet Ben. So they're coming up
yeah.
at that point. So,
But the fact that I don't got to look you in the eye,
yeah.
that speaks volumes. And I'm telling you, brother, we dodged a bullet. If you can't look at a person in the eye and say X, Y, Z, Z, Y, X, and now you want to motivate these young millionaires who to run through a brick wall for you, nah, man. And that tells me he's riding on Campbell's coattails. And I said that before. Go ahead.
I agree with you that we dodged a bullet, knowing that there are 32 jobs in the NFL, only 32 head coaching positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that door, people don't knock on it all the time. There were other people that were head coaching candidates, like the new next up and coming head coach. Just think about it. No one has interviewed Eric Bieniemy but us.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kept yelling and screaming how Bieniemy is going to be the new head coach out there that everyone's going to want. We're the only ones that knocked on his door because he's here. He's under contract, right? Kellen Moore, just all these other guys out there that were it. I remember at one point wanting Byron Leftwich from the Bucks. He's taking Tom Brady to the Super Bowl and this and that. Where's his name? What's he doing? It's just, so it doesn't happen all the time. And if he has the lack of, I guess, just trying to think of the proper word for it, right? He's not motivated to take that next step. Then, yeah, I don't want him trying to motivate my players on my roster to try and actually give 110% and do what's needed to be done. So, yeah, I do think after all this came out that, yeah, we probably did dodge a bullet with him. Who knows? He could be this great offensive mind that everyone says he is. And you said earlier, who anointed him? Well, Vegas isn't in this to lose money, right? They were putting heavy odds on Ben Johnson being it because they're an aggregator. They aggregate all the stats from all these different places, whether it's Schefter, whether it's NFL Network, all these other people. They're talking to head coaches. They're talking to GMs behind the scenes, off the record. Ben Johnson, much like Adam Peters, was the hot, sexy new person to find a new home this year. No one, I tell you, no one thought he was going to stay in Detroit. And to top it off, he's not staying in Detroit because he's getting more money. He's keeping the exact same contract. They're not giving him a contract extension. It's literally the exact same thing he was getting paid this past year. The other offensive mind out there that a lot of people wanted was Bobby Slowick from the Houston Texans.
Right.
Bobby just did it this first year. This was his first year as an offensive coordinator. And he took the Texans and CJ Stroud to the playoffs, right? They ultimately lost to the Ravens. I think that's more so because Lamar was Lamar at that point, and that Ravens defense was sick. But Slowick said, you know what? I've only done this for one season. I want to do it again. I need some more experience under my belt.
I can appreciate that.
Dan Campbell actually came out several times this season saying how Johnson has taken further steps into becoming a head coach, similar to what Andy Reid was saying with Eric Bieniemy last year, trying to kind of groom him and groom everyone and letting them know, giving him basically his stamp of approval if he does decide to leave. Slowick is just staying in Houston, but at least Houston is giving him, and I quote, a significant raise, according to Albert Breer.
Mm.
So he's sticking around. He's getting more money in his pocket, and most likely he'll be one of the hot candidates next year. But a couple of pods ago, we talked, do you want an offensive head coach or a defensive head coach? And I said I wanted an offensive head coach. A lot of our fan base wants an offensive head coach because we're most likely drafting a quarterback at 2. You don't want your defensive head coach to come in and then have one of these badass OCs like a Ben Johnson or a Bobby Slowick, and then you have to worry about, are they going to leave me at the end of the season for a new job? Well, now we're not getting an offensive head coach. The only offensive mind out there that's really available left is Eric Bieniemy. And I don't think that they're offering Bieniemy the head coaching job. Are you cool with that? Or are you bummed that we're not going to get a offensive minded guy?
So, Ted, bro, I've tried to make this as easy as possible. I feel that we all know that Eric didn't write his own check. He just didn't. He didn't help himself out at all. But I feel as though he could possibly do. A lot of people don't like this answer, but I feel that he could be a good head coach, providing you give him the pieces that are needed. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think that this ownership group, we have said that we are going to, we said in the Hall group we trust, basically. We've said that. So at some point in time, you've got to let your fears go away and put your trust in these guys, in this group. You've got to do it. So whomever they decide to bring in, I will be on board with it and let the results speak for themselves. It doesn't sound good, and I know that I'm straddling the fence here, but that's all I can realistically say, man. And I'm not going to try to up things for our listeners. I'm going to be captain, and as well as I can, only be what I can be. Those guys get paid millions of bucks to do what they feel is right, and they bring in a little bit of experience from other sports entities, if you will. Not the NFLs per se, but other sports, meaning the basketball teams and things of that nature. So they know what to look for. I don't. I only can regurgitate what I've heard, hypothetically, the junk say, or maybe what you said. Well, the time has come for us to shut our mouths, sit back, and allow them to manifest what those billions of dollars went towards.
So I hear you. The thing is, right, we have the second pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Right? We got brand new ownership, right?
Yes.
We got $90 million in cap space.
Yes.
We think that we're the hot chick. In actuality, to the rest of the NFL, the other coaching people out there, the other people that wanted jobs, right? I don't know if they think that we're the hot chick. They think, and this is Doc Walker calling into the Junkies this morning, saying that, Mike McDonald, right? He's the Ravens defensive coordinator. After Ben Johnson got picked up, not picked up, after Ben Johnson said, I'm staying in Detroit because I want to party with Eminem, whatever reason, everyone turned their sights on Mike McDonald, right? He is the next most attractive and most capable candidate, according to all the pundits out there, right? Well, McDonald jumped on a plane to fly out to Seattle this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, if you're flying from Baltimore, Annapolis, wherever the hell the guy lives, all the way across country out to Seattle to go look at their facilities, then odds are you're taking that job.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 1 o'clock today, Mike McDonald takes a job. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, because he was the next guy that I would have liked to have here, because from a scheme perspective and a motivator of men perspective, I've heard amazing things about that guy. You talk about, can Ben Johnson motivate? We haven't really heard a ton about that. We have heard from players about McDonald and what he's done with that Ravens defense. So I wanted him to come here, even though he was a defensive guy. But if you're thinking about this, remember the NFLPA came out with that report. All the players basically talk about facilities in this and that. And we were a D in everything.
Right, right.
I'm thinking maybe we're not really the hot chick. Maybe they turn the lights on at the strip club and you realize that she's missing some teeth and that, you know, one leg shorter than the other, and it just ain't as attractive as you thought it was, right? They see the facility out in Ashburn, out at Commanders Park. They see FedEx Field and how it's run down and how Jalen Hurts almost got crushed by a couple of fans and all this uncertainty. All these hot candidates just really weren't that interested anymore. And now we're stuck with Dan Quinn, the Cowboys defensive coordinator. We're stuck with guys that no one else wanted. Remember, there were, 7 vacancies? So I hear you with trusting Peters and trusting the Hogs, but it comes down to, it's a two-way street. Those other coaches have to trust us too, and they are not here for whatever reason. Now we're stuck with what's left. We're in the bottom of all of the possible head coaches out there.
That might not be a bad thing. That might not be a bad thing, Ted.
Might not be, but it's not the most sexy, most attractive coach out there.
Let me tell you what comes with sexy and attractive problems. Just like
not
a woman.
Not necessarily.
Oh, brother, come on, man. The most attractive woman, you gonna have problems with her, man. You're gonna have problems wondering if she's what guy's talking to her, who's what, is she cheating? Is she, man? That's one thing that I do realize. Let's get away from that sexiness. This is football, and I want a hard-nosed guy. Now, will the team adjust to a hard-nosed guy? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that sexiness, man, sometimes is for the birds, bro.
Take sexy out of it. Take sexy out. The most qualified guy that is not an old-ass retread head coach like Bill Belichick.
Are they really qualified? See, once again, man, are they really qualified?
Yes, they're qualified, man. I mean, all right. They are the up-and-coming candidates that have run offenses. Do you want a Belichick here? Do you want an older head coach here? Or what? I mean, what do you want? What do you want in a head coach?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I want someone who has been around the block a couple times, but hasn't stayed on the stroll the whole time.
Okay, Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris was qualified, right? They interviewed Raheem Morris, and they were waiting.
There you go. They interviewed him, but in the back of their mind, they wanted BJ.
We don't know if they wanted BJ. They haven't come out and said that they wanted Ben Johnson. The Commanders, to their credit, they have been quiet. It's just as a church, quiet this entire time. They're not
better
talking.
Be. Yeah, they better be, because otherwise they have mud on their face, and basically they still got mud on their face, even though they're being quiet. The way it looks, because everybody and their mom anointed him to us. So even though they're being quiet, there's mud on people's faces, and you can't get around that. So now it looks as if we're going with this second chance and this third chance, but it may be what's best for us, and that's what people need to understand. That flash in the pants may not have been good, but dude, you know as well as I do, we need a lot of freaking work.
Oh, now, we definitely do. The problem I have, though, is, man, you have a Raheem Morris who is now in Atlanta, right? You have a Dave Canales, Grant, not a good pick. He's there because no one wants to coach for the Panthers. But you had an Antonio Pierce. We're talking about a motivator of men, a guy that actually played linebacker here. Hey, the Vegas decided to keep him there. Brian Callahan going on the Titans. You have a lot of other guys that you potentially could have had your eye on. Remember this whole thorough but rapid thing that Josh Harris was talking about?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, at a certain point, like I talked about pickleball earlier, I'm looking at paddles just all up and down. If you look at my history, it's just pickleball paddles. It is paralysis by analysis. And I feel that that is where we are now. We have tried to analyze all of the different options out there, but the problem is you can only hire one guy. You know, they're all getting gobbled up left and right. On top of that, the assistants are getting gobbled up left and right. So the offensive coordinator candidates out there, the defensive coordinator candidates out there, all these assistants are getting gobbled up. And guess who isn't getting gobbled up? Our existing guys. They're still here. On top of it, guess who's sticking around? Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew, the guys that built this roster with Ron Rivera. They are reportedly keeping their jobs. Their titles are most likely going to change because one's a general manager, the other's a general manager, and guess what? Adam Peters is a general manager, so they're going to get demoted. Who knows what they're going to be title-wise, but guess who's in the Senior Bowl right now for us? Martin Mayhew.
Martin Mayhew.
Do you trust Martin Mayhew's talent acumen at this point?
And that goes back to what I've also said. I want to know who's picking the talent. And so what I would have thought is you would have cleaned house. That's what I would have thought. Not that I want to see anybody fired, but you're starting brand new. You're starting with all fresh faces. If you're trying to go that route, then I would have thought that they would have been gone. Now, maybe they still may, but the way it looks, it does. I don't think so. Or maybe they could be down there picking their brain to see what they think that they're seeing, and to say, you know what? No, we wouldn't have made that pick. So it could be all this to me is a interview process. That's how I look at it.
I trust John Keim. John Keim says Mayhew's sticking around, that he is staying with the organization. He has a history with Adam Peters, right? During Peters' press conference, he kept repeatedly saying that he wants to talk to the head coach, evaluate with the head coach, this and that. It's like, okay, hey, he's saying all the right words. Problem I have is we can't take that step forward without that head coach. You've got Martin Mayhew, to me, who might as well have two glass eyes because I don't know what he sees in players. And I don't understand why he's still around evaluating this talent. I get that you typically don't want to get rid of guys here, but I understand why they weren't let go of beforehand because, you couldn't bring other people in. Well, part of this head coaching process is you're interviewing these guys and you're asking them, who's going to be your defensive coordinator? Who are you going to bring for scouts? Who's going to be your offensive coordinator? Who's going to be your special teams coach? All of that is getting filled up all around you. And then now you're getting stuck with these quote unquote talent evaluators that built this roster that has massive holes in it, that has a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed, and players on it that frankly shouldn't be on here, let alone in the NFL.
Yeah. Like I said, I do have a issue with that. I really would have thought that tier would have been moved out by now. But as you said, hey man, it's about relationships, and obviously they have built one to be able to stay there. Now, will they be here next year or the year after next? No one knows. But right now, you'd have thought that there would have been vacancies and they would have needed to be filled once the general manager came in, because it's supposed to go from top to the bottom, and keeping people in the middle is still a part of that snake that everybody thinks about. So yeah, that doesn't really bode well with me.
It's just part of what I'm concerned about. And I get the whole, we're trusting in the Harris group, we're trusting in Peters. And I remember at one point in Ron, we trust, right? It's just, to me,
Commanders.
It's trust, but verify, right? There's no just blind trust as far as I'm concerned, right? Remember when they brought in Jim Zorn? And we've talked about it before. And all of a sudden, they couldn't find a head coach, so they had Zorn come back in a suit and interview for the head coaching position, right? That's what this kind of feels like to me, right?
Oh, brother. Okay.
I'm just saying, if we hear all of a sudden that Eric Bieniemy is the new Washington Commanders head coach, is because we couldn't find anybody else to come over here and take this job. And Bieniemy's already under contract. He's already on staff. Let's just tell him to put a suit on. Make sure he knows it's burgundy and gold, not maroon and black, or whatever the hell Zorn said, and we just rock it from there. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be okay with that. And
Okay, I agree with you. Okay.
if we get stuck with Dan Quinn and Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator, I got no choice, but I'm not going to be happy with it until they prove me wrong. Because to me, Dan Quinn is an old retread head coach like Ron Rivera. And I don't want his old cowboy ass coming over here. And we already saw what Bieniemy did. And I get what you're saying. Give him the proper weapons and tools he needs to execute the job. But he's the one that called 1st and goal out of shotgun at the 2-yard line. He's the one that did all that. He's the one that made us the least amount of rushing attempts in the NFL. And that ain't going to change, even if he does get linemen in front of him. So that's just why I'm frustrated at this point. But we asked our listeners, and this is what Greg from Charlotte, North Carolina had to say.
What's up, fellas? This is Greg Shield, man, calling from Charlotte. Commenting on y'all's, about the OC situation or whatever, who the coaches is. This is where I'm at, man. Truly, I don't care who they sign. I really, truly don't. I'm just gonna trust the process of the Hogs, the Harris ownership group, and Adam Peters to make the right decision, who they feel is best. Who are we to just want to question their judgment on who they want to lead this organization forward? The reason why I say that, I think this fan base is been hurt so much by the Dan Snyder era and his minions, how they treated everybody, and how they carried themselves. They have no ability to comprehend optimism based on a new regime. Everybody was happy July the 20th when they when they brought the team, right? Everybody was happy when they made the decision to hire Adam Peterson. But now everybody's mad because they didn't get the guy that didn't want to be here. Or they're so gone guy. I don't understand it. So whoever they decide to bring in, whether it's Dan Quinn, Weaver, Steve Wilkes, I don't care who it is. It just don't matter to me because I'm optimistic. And I just like the direction that the new ownership is going. So, as far as, it don't matter, man. You could hire you, me, or Steven to be on the sideline. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be rooting for you regardless. So, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to trust the process, and I thank you for giving me the time to reach out to y'all and, say my piece. Hey, hell to the commander.
Well, I swear it sounds like he listened to me, because I kind of feel the same way. But this is the first time I'm hearing this. So there's 2 for the captain and none for Ted.
I hear you, man. So when he's saying it doesn't matter who the coach is, I completely disagree. We have had, excuse my language, we just had shit head coaches here in the past. We just dealt with a bad head coach for the past 4 years, right? We're talking about this rebuild. If you're going to rebuild it, you need a good leader to do that, right?
Agreed.
I don't want another Ron Rivera here. I don't want another Jim Zorn here, right? I don't want a Bill Callahan coming in here and just run the ball 5,000 times with no balanced offense. So it matters to me who's going to lead this rebuild for this team. And my concern is, other than a Bill Belichick and a Mike Vrabel, who I don't want, I feel that those guys are older minds. The NFL is going a more analytic, younger route, that we don't have our pick of the litter anymore. We did before, right? Last we talked, the only job that had been filled was the Patriots job, and that's just because that was written into the contract of their existing head coach at this point, that he was going to succeed Bill Belichick after Belichick retired. The problem I got is, we had a position to be filled, and there are only a handful of candidates out there. And now all of the quote unquote good candidates depending on who you listen to, took jobs elsewhere. I might now have, remember, we had a high school coach coaching our defensive backs.
Secondary coach, yeah. It
Right?
wasn't good. Yeah.
So do not tell me it does not matter who coaches this team, because it does. And I just, look.
Qualified.
At some point, Ron Rivera thought that high school guy was qualified, right? And I'm not saying that Peters is going to make that mistake and that the Hogs are going to make that mistake, but at a certain point, you're going to run out of people. Thank God we're the last job left, but you're going to run out of people to actually talk to that are quote unquote qualified, because all the other qualified people that you kind of wanted to take are getting hired as offensive coordinators for these new coaching staffs. So that's just my thing, man. We're getting to the bottom of the barrel. And at what point, because the Senior Bowl is happening right now, right? And Rivera never went to the Senior Bowl, right? He would always play at Pebble Beach and go do golf and all that stuff. But at what point do you start to get concerned? If we don't have a head coach by this weekend and the NFL doesn't like you making announcements next week, at what point on the calendar does Rally and Greg start to get a little worried that we still got this vacancy? What's going on here?
So I stand on 10 toes that we will have a candidate before Saturday. I stand on that. Now, to answer your question, if that doesn't happen and it's after the Super Bowl, I'm not gonna necessarily be worried per se, because I just feel as though they're gonna bring somebody in who's gonna be able to do the job. At least that's what I would like to believe, Ted. Because I'm not trying to have Asperger's syndrome, bro, to where it's just doom and gloom, you know. And
Asperger's syndrome isn't doom and gloom. It is, we are the best place to be no matter what. That, you know, Chase Young was that's Asperger's syndrome. So
okay, I've been looking at Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah.
I've been looking at Asperger's syndrome totally wrong this whole time. So I thought it was doom and gloom. But they may bring somebody in for a year, unfortunately. And I know that doesn't sound good, but they could. A trusted type of deal. Hey, if you do well, we'll extend you. If not, we'll keep it. It's like the quarterback situation. We're going to keep looking for that head coach. And
that's not going to happen. They're not going to offer a head coach a one-year deal. It would be Bieniemy keeping his deal. That's it.
And where I was going with that is, I feel as though that, like you said, Bieniemy with a one-year deal, trying to build around what he's asking for, and if not, after that, he's going to be gone, or just to see what somebody can do. A new coach coming in is going to minimum want 5 years. 4 to 5 years minimum, of course.
Yeah. Any new coaching candidate offer is going to have a 5-year deal, most likely.
Yeah. And you need to have that. But there's a part of me that just thinks that hey man, right now there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, and they could give Bieniemy that one-year deal. Bieniemy could have come in, man, and like I told you before, he could have said, listen, guys, I was forced with this roster. Let me get the roster that I need. And after that, if it's no bueno, then so be it. Kick me to the curb.
Then why haven't they just offered him the job yet then, at that point, knowing that you interviewed Bieniemy right a week ago?
Because he's not their favorite. Obviously he's not the favorite, but he is a viable candidate. Just like Quinn, you don't want to hear that, but Quinn is a viable candidate. Variable, you don't want to hear it, but they are all viable. We're trying to see what fits, and obviously, what we thought or what they thought with Ben Johnson, it didn't happen. So now, what's your contingency plan?
And that's the thing. That right there is the contingency plan. If we did this show 2 weeks ago, we thought that we were going to get who we wanted because we were the it spot to go to with all of this. Now we're falling back on our contingency plan. We're going back to our safe school right? You applied to Harvard, you applied to Stanford, right? Now, guess where we're going? We're going to Nova, right? We're going to Northern Virginia Community College with Eric Bieniemy.
Come
And
on, bro.
that's what it
Come.
feels like,
It's
man.
not. It's not. It may be a D2, but it ain't Nova, man. Come on, man.
Bieniemy feels like Nova. I hate that I'm saying this. I would rather have Dan Quinn be the head coach with a new offensive coordinator than Eric Bieniemy taking over, because I saw everything I needed to from Bieniemy already, and I don't think that he's a leader of men. Because if he was a leader of men, they wouldn't be bitching and complaining about practice being hard. They would have ran through a wall for that man. You wouldn't have had all these stories come out after the fact. And there's a reason why no one has called him up this year.
Well, see, the problem that I have, the problem I have with it, I think Bieniemy is a motivator of men, but they've allowed them to speak outside and allow that stuff to get out. Don't you think that for a minute that the same problems that we have here, other teams have, but they kept it in house?
Then it's not a problem, though. But
it is a problem. But they kept it in house. They decided.
If you're keeping it in house, it's not a problem, though, right? I mean, players can yell and complain all they want to, but if it never gets leaked out, then it's not an issue. It's just internal to them. But the fact of the matter is, the culture here was bad with Rivera, even though he said he fixed it, right? But Marty Schottenheimer, when Marty Schottenheimer came here, he tried to tell Darryl Green how to play corner. Darryl told Marty, basically, I'm not listening to you. I'm not doing what you want. He did not motivate him at all. It's just, there's certain things and certain ways you have to come across. And I am concerned that because of all that stuff that did leak out, that did become a problem, because whatever, we've got all those holes in our dam here and people can't keep stuff in house. I think it's just going to be more of the same. If and when we start losing next year, I just think it's going to get worse. And we had our gap year this year, right? We knew that this was a limbo year. This was a gap year because the team was being sold. We could not fire. We could not clean house. We could not start off properly. So if we're stuck with Bieniemy again, I'm on record saying I'm going to be patient and wait 2 to 4 years for this thing to be rebuilt. You said, nah, we don't want to wait that long. If it's Bieniemy and he just lives out this contract, we're just potentially wasting another year, most likely.
Well, here's the other thing, Ted. Once again, man, I think that we've been listening to what everyone says. You guys are the best candidate. You guys got all this money in cap space. You guys got new owners. And we've said this, that they've got a blank canvas to work off of. We've said, and they still do, regardless of who they bring in or not bring in, there's still a blank canvas to work off of. But we bought into, you guys are the best looking girl for the prom, or the best looking girl in the senior class. We bought into that, not necessarily the outside world. And I got a buddy who I work with who says, I listen to what the local media says, but I also listen to what the outside media says. And the outside media isn't saying that you guys have this great looking girl. They aren't saying it. And I say, you really? He goes, yeah. He goes, you're just listening to what the DMV basically says inside the Beltway, versus outside further away. They aren't saying that about Washington. So now when I think about everything that we've talked about, his conversation comes right back to me. And maybe we aren't where we thought what we were. Maybe we just aren't.
No, and that's my point exactly. I don't think we are.
Okay. And so we need a whole bunch of makeup to make ourselves look better. But here's the thing, man. It may not, and unfortunately, and I hate to say this already before the season even starts, it may not change this year. It just may not. And we may have to look to, as you said, 2 to 3 years beyond until we can get who we feel is the right guy. So what happens if they bring in a guy who, and I don't know who I'm not really good with the names, but this guy who they bring in, yeah, he shows you great promise. Would you be okay with it, or would you still be upset? And he turns the season around.
I need the new head coach to create an identity for our team. We have not had an identity for our team in how long? We can
Okay.
go 3-14 next year. But if we know what we're building towards, if we can see the type of players that they're drafting, then I'm good with it. The problem I have is I have not seen that. We don't have, you know what the Ravens' identity is, right? You know what the Steelers' identity, these teams out there, you know what the Niners' identity is, right? We don't have one. And that's what I need to see. I don't know what Eric Bieniemy's identity is. And from what I've seen, it's get your quarterback killed. And the last thing I want is Eric Bieniemy's identity to kill a Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Drake May, whoever it is. I do not trust that guy to groom this young quarterback. And I don't want another situation where we waste a second overall pick in the draft because you get a head coach that's not qualified to do the job. That is my biggest concern, because it's not just getting a head coach here. It's getting a head coach to pick the right kid to lead us out of this. We cannot keep missing on these draft picks. We're setting our franchise back so much.
Agreed. I agree with you on that. Now, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I do agree with you on that. And there's only so many times you're going to be able to swing and miss. And okay, so I'm leaning back toward something that you said. Yes, these guys, the sexy picks, they're still unproven.
Yeah.
They're still unproven. We thought that Belichick, I can't think of the guy, he had the beard under Belichick and he became a head coach. He stunk. But because he was riding Belichick's coattails and Tom Brady's coattails. Let's face it, Tom Brady made everybody look good. Whoever that guy was that was under Belichick with the beard, and he went to, what team did he go to? I don't know, but he was kind of a stout guy, and they sucked. So I feel as though it's like the name thing. No matter what you change the name to, you're going to have a group of people that think that it's a terrible name. You got people who think that the Commanders is an okay name. You got people who hate it. So you bring in this guy, and let's just say we did bring in, the guy from Detroit, and he was terrible. We would be saying the same thing. So you can't right now. You can't miss what you don't have right now.
I got you. I don't think I'd be saying the same thing because we gave it a shot with the de facto number one candidate according to all of you talked about the junkies earlier. The junkies have on all of these experts out there. All these other stations have all these experts out there. Ben Johnson was the number one most qualified candidate to be a new head coach out. Just plain simple. He was. There's a reason why if you put money on it, you would get if you put $1 down on FanDuel or DraftKings, you would win 50 cents. Right? There's a reason why that those odds were like that at that point. So it's just, if you go with the right, if we draft the Jaden Daniels had 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and it does not work out, then I am okay with that because we shot for the best guy that was available. But at the second pick, if we draft Bo Nix or if we draft Michael Penix, one of these guys that you get in the later rounds, and we wasted that second round pick on them, no, I'm not okay with that because you could have gotten them later.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Everybody would. The problem I have is we were shooting our shot for the best guys out there, and now they are all gone. And I don't know what to expect anymore. None of us do, because I don't think we're, like you said, we're at our contingency plan. Right now, it's break glass in case of emergency. Well, the emergency is happening because we're the last team without a head coach. And I get waiting's the hardest part, but this is beyond waiting at this point. To me, this is somewhat negligence that we don't have a coach yet. And I'm hoping you're right and that it's done this Friday. But if not, man, I'll be playing a lot of pickleball during the offseason to take my mind off this team.
Ooh, Ted, bro, man, you just made me want to just you just don't know, man. You make me feel like there's no hope.
There's hope. I trust Adam Peters, right? The problem is, like I said before, man, we got to have someone that wants to dance with us. And right now, we're walking up to everybody, asking them to dance, and they're just turning around and looking the other way.
We got to change our outfit. We got to change our cologne. Maybe get a haircut. You know,
hey, I did shave my head today, so
it's gonna happen, bro. It is, and I think that we'll be okay. That's the rally captain. Maybe that's my outlook that I've always had, and I always will. And I hear the music playing in the background, which lets me know that we are bringing another episode of the DMV Mess Hall to a close. I thank you guys for riding with us, and all I ask you is to put that seatbelt on because it's about to get bumpy. No one said it was going to be easy. So here we are. And in our worst day, in our worst time, our worst hour, like me, you rep it hard or you don't rep it at all. Because a lot of fans did go to Baltimore. And Baltimore ultimately is sitting on the couch once again with us. So, hey, Ted, rally captain, we'll see you guys next week. And we're out.